Every time I'm sad, you're sad.
You don't want to become a sorry man, you want to become a safe man. And to your point, there are many people who are public successes and private failures.
It looks crazy.
To kind of invest yourself and obsess yourself into something that will take up that time so you're not so preoccupied on the pain. And in that process, you begin to heal.
Your entire world comes crashing down. You have no idea how difficult it is to find all the parts and pieces of you.
You have a victim mindset. There's a difference between going through a tragedy and becoming the tragedy.
To live a life where you're the victim.
Do you want to be stuck? And she said, yes, I do.
How long did they wait to see this integral version of you?
And going to someone who can help them heal and facilitate healthy conversations. This is what an intervention is for. Hey, we're Hasani and Danielle, and you're watching Marriage Intervention, where we answer all of your questions concerning infidelity.
Let's jump right into these questions, Hasani. Our first call-in question from Thomas is right here.
My wife says she forgives me, but she doesn't respect me anymore. How do you build respect after infidelity?
Yeah, that's a powerful one. Would you say that a lot of couples struggle with this, like the respect issue?
Yeah.
Because number one, the act in itself was very disrespectful. What I find is that typically when a disrespectful act like this occurs, it creates so much pain, hurt, and brokenness in the betrayed spouse.
Yeah.
And as a consequence, that pain, hurt, and brokenness is then projected back onto the offender. But the fact is there had to have been some brokenness within them to cause them to do it in the first place. And so during this season, like with the discovery phase, it's the most volatile phase, the most emotionally unstable phase. We call it, in terms of marital patterns, this is what we would call the sufferer marital pattern. And there's this constant back and forth, tit for tat, low intensity warfare where they're constantly engaging in battle with each other. It's very disrespectful. So the question is, how do you recover? How do you regain that level of respect? There's a couple things that I'm thinking of that can be done. Number one, you have to get to a place where you stop trying to convince your spouse and start becoming consistent. I think oftentimes when people are trying to do the right thing, they did something right, and then they want to be celebrated and acknowledged. They want a cookie. They want a trophy for it. But it's not about doing the right thing one time. It's about being consistent in it, because trust is gained over time, not in a moment of clarity, not because you did something that won your spouse over in the moment. It doesn't work that way. I think the other thing is you have to establish emotional strength. Like, it's good to show remorse, and it's essential to show remorse, but you don't want to become a sorry man. You want to become a safe man. Like, I know a lot of people who feel like if I show all of this emotion and my heart is bleeding and I'm constantly crying and every time you're triggered, I'm triggered. And now the hurt spouse has to protect and cover and edify and build up the former offender. Like, wait a minute, I'm the one who's broken. I need you to be strong. Your strength will allow me to regain respect for you. And I think that that's one of the dynamics that a lot of people suffer from in relationships as well.
What you said, every time I'm sad, you're sad. That is something that I hear as a major complaint, because it's like, now you're hijacking my journey, right? Like, I'm the offended one, and now you've become sad and sorry about what you're doing. You're right. That person who did the offending needs to prove strength. And you can't do that by begging for respect. You don't get respect by saying that you're sorry. You get respect by showing consistency, by, being transparent, by creating new patterns for the hurt partner to trust in. So, to answer the question of this person who's saying, like, she no longer respects you, well, then earn the respect. We talk about trust is lost in buckets and gained in drops. It's the same thing with respect. Like, if you put the work in and prove to her that you are somebody worth respecting, she can't do anything but acknowledge the respect that you've earned. Yeah. And that's a big thing. A lot of times you go from being this highly respected person, not just in your relationship, but you're respected. That your people at your job respect you, your friends and family and community respect you, and then you step into infidelity and you lose all this face in your household. that is another strong point of contention for women, to be married to someone who has all this respect and accolade in the streets,
Yeah.
right? But at home, zero respect. And I could see him maybe feeling that way. Like,
Yeah.
you know what? I said I'm sorry. I'm doing the work and she no longer respects me, but all these other people out here still respect me. And the issue is that all the people out here in the streets that respect you didn't have to endure complete and total betrayal.
Yeah.
Trust and believe. Betray them, you'll lose respect. So my response is to, do the work to create the patterns that will earn you the respect that you desire. Don't beg for it.
And a part of that work, Danielle, really is developing your personal integrity at the end of the day, because integrity is who you are and how you show up when no one's looking. And to your point, there are many people who are public successes and private failures. So they give one image in front of the world as if that's who they really are, but then their spouse experiences something completely different. And I can't trust you if I don't see any change within you. And a part of that personal development and integrity building is really, just to being honest, developing your relationship with God. Like when you become submitted to a higher authority and when you begin to make internal change, spiritually connecting to your creator, now I can begin to trust you. Not that I trust you, but I trust the God that exists within you. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about just going to church and engaging in religious traditions. I'm talking about real relationship where you submit your heart and you submit your life to a creator who you are held accountable to. And there's a new standard by which you live your life. I think in that process, trust can slowly but surely be restored. All right, so let's go to the next question, Danielle. I feel jealous and insecure all the time now. Okay. And I hate this version of myself. How do I get back to who I was before the betrayal?
I think it's important for us to understand that as we go through trauma in life, we depart from the person that we were, right? We're no longer the person that we were before betrayal. So to have this idea that I'm going to go back to the person that I was, it really shouldn't be the focus. The focus should be to heal from where you are and to grow from where you are. And that only happens by really doing the personal work, like actually getting back into yourself. Unfortunately, when crisis strikes your marriage in any shape, form, or fashion, the focus of your entire life becomes on the crisis. Like you depart from everything else you're doing. You stop with the self-care. You stop connecting with friends and family. You definitely don't have any connection with your spouse whatsoever. You might even depart from your mother roles, all the things, or your father roles. So you've departed from every other aspect of your life. And now you have microscopic zeroed in on the hurt, pain, and trauma that you experienced as a result of this offense, right? This is why you no longer feel like yourself, because you've left all these other parts of yourself unchecked, right? Mm-hmm. And anything left unchecked begins to erode. It's just like a garden, right? I don't know if people garden out here, but I used to love gardening. And I remember every spring before you start sowing new seeds, you got to go into that garden and you've got to till, you've got to pull out all the weeds. It looks crazy, right? Because over the winter, you neglected the garden, right? You weren't pulling weeds out. You weren't sowing anything. You weren't putting water into it, right? So it's the same thing that happens with our lives. So in order for you to get back to you, you actually have to go ahead and get back to you, right? And remember that there are other aspects of you that need nurturing, that need support, and that need care, as well as the crisis that you're experiencing in your marriage, right? So I'm not saying, abandon the crisis. You can't abandon the crisis because that's a huge part that's weighting you down and anchoring you into pain. But you also, at the same time, need to get the support needed to nurture the other areas of your life.
That's a powerful point. You mentioned being disconnected from family and friends, disconnected from your roles. Really, they're disconnected from themselves. And it's about getting that connection back. That's a powerful point. I would say that in addition to that, I think that when you've gone through trauma, you've, to your point, disconnected from your hobbies, your interests, from work, and all you do is obsess about what has occurred. You become hypervigilant about everything. You begin to study your spouse's affair partner, and you just get consumed in it, and you become trapped in that pain. And it reminds me of a movie that, we've seen this movie several times. We encourage other people to see it. It's about an individual who experienced, pain in his personal life, and it led to divorce. And he became so obsessed with it. And he said that I had to find something else to obsess about. And he began to obsess about rock climbing. And as a result of shifting his focus, I think, Danielle, a lot of times people lose their passions, their desires, dreams that they had that they no longer fulfill, projects they were working on that they've just shut down, gifts that they have that they've just put away. And I think it's a time to have a new lease for life, to kind of invest yourself and obsess yourself into something that will take up that time so you're not so preoccupied on the pain. And in that process, you begin to heal.
Yeah, I love that. It's exactly what we do in the Unearthed 12-week program. We literally take women on a journey back to themselves because there is such a grand departure from your whole being when there is a crisis in your life, especially something so devastating as a marital betrayal. It's like, cheating is so taboo, like everyone's doing it, but until you've experienced it, and your entire world comes crashing down, you have no idea how difficult it is to find all the parts and pieces of you.
Yeah.
Right? So it has to be so intentional. I love that, fall in love with a piece of rock comes to me for the quote from that movie, right? He had to shift his mindset and fall in love with something else because he was a rock climber. So he fell in love with this rock to conquer this rock. And that's what you really need to do. You need to fall back in love with yourself. It's hard to do that without proper counseling because a lot of people, when they have experienced the hurt of infidelity, feel like it's about them. It was something wrong with me. I'm the reason why. I wasn't enough, and it never had anything to do with you. And so absolutely fall in love with yourself again.
The other thing you mentioned, we've talked about how when you experience a betrayal, it can result in your own personal identity crisis. And I think who I was before this betrayal, I've become something completely different. And so a lot of times when you've been cheated on, you've been victimized. Right? But if being victimized becomes a part of your identity, now you have a victim mindset. There's a difference between going through a tragedy and becoming the tragedy. And I think when you take on a victim's mindset, it shifts everything.
Yes.
And we've talked about this before, like countless times. There's benefits to being the victim.
Absolutely.
Right? There's a lot that you can gain being in a position of being broken and unhealed, because now it means that everything is coming towards you. You could demand certain things from your spouse. Think about a person who's crippled. They need help constantly, right? Until they can walk on their own. Oh, anything I can do? How can I help you? How can I support you? What do you need? And so that becomes a new relational dynamic. It becomes the crutch.
Yes, it becomes the crutch because now I don't have to be held accountable for my behavior and my actions, right? My nasty, mean, surly energy and attitude. Oh, it's because that is what they did to me. The reason why I don't show up and I don't have integrity and my word is not my bond. Oh, it's because, this happened to me. So now you walk and live a life with zero accountability because it is easier for you, so you think in the meantime, to live a life where you're the victim. There's many benefits. And I talk about this in my book where I'm sharing how you can literally lock yourself in your own dungeon and prison of excuses, hurts, blames, right? And never step out of that prison. And you'll sit there and be imprisoned by your own trauma for the rest of your life if you don't step outside of, the victim mentality.
There was one couple we were working with many, many years ago, and literally we were walking them through the recovery process. The husband was the offender. And it got to a point where he was doing everything right. I'm telling you, he became a new man. He was transformed.
Oh, yes. I know who you're talking about.
But for whatever reason, she still wasn't hurt. She still was in her pain. She still had resentment. And so after about 8 months of working with him, I said, do you want to be stuck? And she said, yes, I do. I want to be stuck. I'm not ready to heal because once I heal, I know I'm going to be responsible for my own personal growth and development. And I'm not ready for that yet. I'm enjoying how my spouse is showing up for me. And so I was like, what an epiphany I had in that moment, that there are some people who say that they want to heal, but they really don't because there's advantages to being disadvantaged.
You know what? This is why you better be careful who you step out on because you do not want to know what the other side of that personality is holding. And it makes me think about how there is some validity in that. as twisted as it is, you can understand how a person who has been through so much trauma, so much hurt, so many lies, so much betrayal, and then the person finally gets it together and they finally get themselves some act right, and you don't want to see that end. Right? And so if I forgive you, I hear this all the time. If I forgive them, then they're going to think everything is okay. And they're going to go back to the way that they used to be, you know? If I let them off the hook, then next thing you know, they're going to be stepping out, they're going to be lying and betraying. But now that they're on the good foot, let me hold my position of power, right? And so the person is really tormented, honestly, because they're doing all the right things. We hear this. This is kind of what one of the other questions was about. I'm doing all the right things, but my spouse is not letting go, is not forgiving me, all these things. Why? Because how long did they wait to see this integral version of you? How long did you make them wait to experience what they should have experienced since day one? How long? And so they don't want to let that go. So it's kind of like a hard, it's a hard place to be, because you understand it, but at the same time, you've got to move and grow through that.
I want to give you another scenario. Imagine a spouse who shows up very well. The betrayed spouse had no clue of the lifestyle that they were living in secret. Then the truth comes out, right? Now they get back to God. They truly are transformed. They're doing the right thing, but the betrayed spouse can't let it go. And even though he acknowledges, man, she is an integral person, she is a loving person, she is a God-fearing person, he's trying to punish who she was, not who she is.
I've seen that as well. And, it's interesting. It's interesting because we talk about personality typology, and there are certain types that, every single time, if I know that's a struggle in your marriage, I can guess. You're probably an 8 or you're probably a 1, if that's what's going on, right? Where you refuse to let them move past without punishing the person that they were. Yes, I know, and I can acknowledge that you've changed. You hear it. They acknowledge that they've changed. They're not doing the things. Okay, are they opening up their heart to you and their lives to you? Are they transparent? Yes. Are you seeing incremental growth? Absolutely. Are they the same person that they were? No, they have completely changed, but they did that to me. Mm-hmm. They don't get away with doing that to me. So even though they are who they are supposed to be today, I'm still going to punish who they were yesterday. I see it all the time.
This is some real stuff.
Yes.
This is why this is a journey you cannot do on your own.
All right, Hassan, let's go to the next question. He says it was just sex, but if it was just sex, why did he risk everything for it? Powerful, powerful question.
First of all, it's very minimizing to say it was just, it was only. And we don't realize that language can really negatively affect a spouse because it's an insult to their intelligence when we use certain words. So I would say take ownership of it, number one. But here's the reality. It's never just sex, Danielle. Ever, 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 ever. Because interestingly enough, unless I'm intentionally going out to have sex. Like, I know men who travel around the world for sex. I know people who will pick up a prostitute for sex. So it's very physical oriented in its nature. But even if it was just that, it's never just about that. Because technically you can get sex from a spouse, possibly. But for many people, it's beyond the physical act. It's how I feel as a result of this act. Like in a marriage, maybe I don't feel seen. Maybe I don't feel desired. Maybe I think the only thing that you value in me is my wallet. I want somebody to love me for me, or at least to fake it, right? So a lot of times there are emotional needs that are met in the physical act that go just beyond the act of sex. Now, if it is someone who has a sexual compulsion, right? They have an addiction and they're engaging in sex with multiple people. That's a different situation. But even in that, there's a high that you get from it. Let's just remove sex for a second. Let's talk about drugs. Oftentimes, the reason why people do drugs or drink alcohol is because either A, they're chasing a feeling, or B, trying to run away from a feeling. So there's always so sex, drugs, alcohol becomes the vehicle to take them to a destination. And I think that's a deeper level of understanding when it comes to infidelity. That if we simplify it to just two people coming together and engaging in a physical act and make it just about that, then we miss a deeper understanding that can lead to true transformation internally.
I love that answer. I think, clinically, everything that you're saying is 100% correct. I think oftentimes we neglect the spiritual aspect of things. And, it's never just about sex, but oftentimes it's something that is not tangible either, right? There are a lot of people out here in these streets that are actually suffering from major soul wounds, and a lot of these soul wounds took place in their lives before they can even remember. This is why you can have somebody in a session who really wants to, quit watching pornography, and they actually have a belief that they could just put it down anytime they want, and they can't. They have no idea why they're handcuffed and anchored to watching pornography whenever certain triggers take place. They've never done the research. They've never done the self-work or the deep dive to understand that you didn't even know that you were exposed to pornography when you were 3 years old, right? Mm-hmm. These are soul wounds that are not tangible and that can't be seen. And it becomes really frustrating inside sessions for the spouse of the person who just wants answers, right? It's just like, you say that you want to change. You say that you don't want to do this anymore. And we all believe you. But for some reason, something untangible keeps driving you to do the thing that you say you do not want to do. Oh, wretched man that I am, right? Isn't that a scripture? Yeah. So we know that there is also, in addition to a clinical side and physical things that are taking place, and your ego has a lot to do with it, and validation has to do with it, and just your mindset of, blaming your spouse, because it's never about your spouse, but oftentimes people actually truly believe it's because of them, right? The truth is that there's a layer beneath it that represents a soulish level of attachments that cause you to do things that you don't desire to do.
Yes.
And again, those journeys are often not taking solo, right? Those are not usually journeys that you can, self-medicate. You really need a practitioner, somebody who can support you through a process to help you uncover or unearth those soul wounds to get you back to a place of health and healing.
That's powerful, and I agree with you 1,000%. All right, Danielle, we have another question. Is it possible to have too much information about an affair? Sometimes I think knowing every detail has hurt me more.
Yeah, well, TMI is a thing for a reason, right? TMI. This is something that is debatable depending on the type of person that you are, because there are some people that truly do not want to know all the details. They don't want to know, right? I just need the basics. I just need you to confess that you did it, and I need to move on. Then you have people that want to know every single detail down to the literal nuances of exactly what happened in every breathtaking moment of the affair. I believe that the answer is somewhere in the middle, because if this information is bringing clarity for you to make decisions, I feel like the information needs to be known. If the information is continuing to traumatize you, if the information is less helpful, if you're creating mind movies, if this thing continues to traumatize you, just knowing the blood-curdling details of everything that went on, I don't think that it's helpful. I think at the end of the day, it's about what information do I need to make the decision if I'm going to move forward, and what information do I need to know to be able to support my marriage in total and complete recovery? And I think we kind of get lost in the midst of that. Sometimes the type of person that wants to know every single solitary detail, they obsess over it and it never ends. I mean, we could go through a full discovery process and everything that you needed to know comes out. Like, we know that there was an affair, okay? We know who it was with. We know the date and place and time, all of that. But you want to know every step, breath by breath, moment by moment. That's not serving you at all. That's the same thing as holding on to receipts, which people often do. You're holding on to receipts, whatever photos you found, whatever text message you found, whatever evidence and proof that you found that proves that this person was unfaithful. we've already had full discovery. All of it has been announced and admitted, but you're still holding on to receipts. All these things do is continue to traumatize you. So I think, for each individual person, wherever you are on the spectrum, because the other side of it is the person that doesn't want to know nothing. Okay. And what happens with the person that doesn't want to know anything is that you are literally teaching your spouse how to treat you. Right. And so now, because you don't want to know anything, you just want the basics. Like, did you cheat? Yes. Okay. That's all I need to know. Now your spouse is learning about you that you don't want to know the truth. You can't handle the truth. And so they're going to do all these things to continue to protect you from the details of the truth. So you don't know things. So guess what happens after that? Shock and awe when trickled truth comes out in everyday life. So again, I think it's really about finding a balance that serves their marital recovery, not about getting details for the tea spill, right? This is not about the plot. This is about recovery.
I don't have to add in a single thing to what you said, but I will.
Okay.
Great answer. There was a couple, I remember I had to fly to them to do a private marriage intensive. And we're in the midst of the full disclosure. I'm preparing him for it. We're in the midst of it. And somehow, as he's answering questions, she tunes out. She grabs her phone and she's just scrolling. She's just scrolling. And I'm like, everything good? Everything okay? What are you doing? Oh, I'm just pulling up receipts. I'm looking at the photos. I'm looking at the videos. I'm reading the text messages between my spouse and the affair partner. And she's seething in anger and she's pissed. So much so that she doesn't even hear what he's saying anymore because she's so enwrapped in these conversations. She's held on to these receipts for months. And I said, you know what? Delete it. And literally, she was like, delete it? I'm never deleting this. And we had a back and forth exchange. But I began to explain to her, similar to what you're saying, the danger and the damage of holding on to the evidence. I said, because at the end of the day, the subconscious mind will never forget. You don't have to worry about that. Delete it. And literally, we spent 30 minutes. She deleted everything, Danielle. Everything. That was the beginning of her healing because holding on to that evidence kept her anchored in her pain. That's number one. But I agree with everything you just said. I think that there's damage and danger in knowing too little. And I think that there's damage and danger in knowing too much. And what I've discovered over years, what we've discovered over years of working with couples, it's not just the facts, like the who, the what, the when, the where, the how, the details of the affair. It's more the why of the affair. That's where most people are stuck. Like, okay, we've dealt with the gory details, but help me understand, why would this happen? And where were you? And where were we in our relationship? That's what people struggle to gain clarity on. Once they have that level of clarity, then healing can begin. But getting into the weeds of all the details, in fact, as you know, when we work with couples, before we engage in full disclosure, we want to know what the questions are. We're questioning the questions. Well, why do you want to know this? And what is this really about? And what are you really trying to get to? See, that's the benefit of having somebody who's facilitating the process. Because to your point, you can never unlearn. You can never unsee. You can never unknow. And depending upon the personality, to your point, some can handle it, some can't. And what we've seen is that it's caused irreparable damage in countless people when done the wrong way.
Phenomenal response. Let's go to our final question here. It says, we argue about the affair in front of our kids sometimes. How do we protect them while we're still broken?
Yeah. It's hard, Danielle, because when you're in the middle of an argument, a fight, or a very animated exchange, it feels like those walls are made of paper mache. And kids can't hear what's on the other side of that wall. And it's very damaging to them because you're inviting them into a conversation that they should not be a part of. And as we always say, you want to protect your children from your marriage. You never want to fight in front of them. But if you do, you want to apologize in front of them so that they could see full story how something starts and how something should end. But in terms of protecting them, I think the number one thing you need to do is, if you're going to engage in conversations, get away. Sometimes maybe you go in the basement if they're on the top floor. Sometimes leave the home. I mean, I remember during COVID, we would do walk-in talks we just wanted to get out of the house. We felt trapped and, claustrophobic. Going on long walks and engaging in conversations. We would do drinking drives. We would go to a Starbucks, grab a drink, and just drive through neighborhoods and engage in conversation. See, you have to get away so that they're not privy to what's really going on. And so what I would say is, if they're experiencing that there's crisis at home between mom and dad, I think you have to craft the proper messaging. Like, you can't deny, or lie about what they're experiencing, but you give them proper messaging to say something like, what, mom and dad, we are going through, a rough patch right now, but we're working on it. We want to let you know that we love you and we want to protect you to make sure that you're safe. And so, listen, we apologize for what you have seen, but we're working on it. Like, have messaging that reinforces that, listen, we're going to get through this. And it's not your fault, because children oftentimes will internalize what they see mom and dad going through, and they carry the pain of their parents.
Yes, so true. It's so true what you're saying. I want to add that I don't believe that it's irreparable damage. This is a part of their story. This is a part of their journey, and it happened, right? So, you're on the other side of it. This is not a preventative conversation, right? You've already done it, right? You've argued in front of your kids. You've let the cat out of the bag. Now they know, right? To your point, that can be so destructive for the kids, right? They automatically love the both of you, but now they feel the pressure to take a side. Like, who did what? Dad hurt mom. Now I got to be on mom's side, but I still love dad, or vice versa, right? So you're inviting so much confusion into that child's life, but it is not irreparable damage if you take it from here and handle it well. And I think the first thing that you need to do is just own it and say that was a mistake and that was the wrong thing to do, right? We should never have brought you into this. Mom and dad love you both, or love all of you equally. We're going to work on this, right? Stop arguing in front of the kids. Contain all of this energy that you're doing in front of them. It should not be, presented on the public stage of your family's lives, right? Like, go to a private place, to your point. If you got to go for a walk and talk, get out of the house and do not argue in front of them again. And then the last thing I would do is focus on repairing, right? Let them understand that you are repairing, and show them, right? What a powerful lesson for them to learn, to be able to see their parents go through crisis, right? And then in a mature way, turn the whole thing around, right? So instead of continue to show this to them, show the destruction and the frustration and the violence and the yelling and the arguing, now you have the opportunity to show them how you repair, how you come back from offense, how to forgive, right? That's a powerful thing to be able to display to your children.
And in addition to the repair that the couple must make, sometimes you have to repair the relationship with your children, because we've worked with couples where the child hates the father or hates the mother, has no respect for them. So
where does that start? Okay. Conversations in the house.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we've had to do family counseling. We've had to do individual counseling with just the children alone. There's something powerful when you recognize, you know what? I think that our children are suffering from the residue of what we're dealing with. We need to get them help as well. And going to someone who can help them heal and facilitate healthy conversations. This is what an intervention is for. One of the most powerful experiences that we've had is doing a family intervention, because it's not just about little kids, Danielle, or teenagers.
No.
Sometimes adult children carry the pain.
Sure.
Man, we did a 5-day intensive with a family, and it was broken up to, we dealt with the married couples, then we dealt with parent-child, then we dealt with the children alone, then we brought them all together. It was so much that was needed to bring about restoration. It wasn't just simply the couple, the parents got their relationship together and everything else is all right. No, there's systemic pain, right, that needs to be addressed. So this is a huge one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe you are watching right now and one of these questions resonated with you and you're like, great answer, but I think I need a little bit more. We encourage you to reach out to us, set up a free discovery call so that we can walk you through what healing and restoration looks like in your marriage.